Akisha Lockhart here for She's Got a Show, and I'm at the Flagship AT&T store on Michigan Avenue, sitting next to hip-hop artist and activist Vic Mensa. Vic, how are you?
I'm super well.
Good. I'm so glad for your time. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for your time.
No problem. So I'm going to take you back a little bit, right? So a few years ago, I went to a bar to watch this group that you may have heard of, Kids These Days, right? So I saw them.
A few years ago.
So I watched them perform, and Vic was a part of Kids These Days. And then December of last year, I went to the United Center and saw you open for Jay-Z 444 tour, the stop in Chicago. Your platform, musical platform, has grown immensely since you started. And the thing that I respect about you, Vic, is that your social activism is right there with it. So can you please let everybody know, educate me on Save Money and Save Life, or Save Money, Save Life?
Save Money, Save Life is the name of the foundation that I just launched in Chicago about 3 weeks to a month ago. And basically, people ask me very often, like, why Chicago is in such a dire predicament, why the violence is so over the top, why the poverty and segregation is the way it is. And oftentimes I come back to the same answer, in that there's no investment into the community. There's no resources being put into the community. Everything's being taken. It's always a drain, you know? And schools have stalls with no doors. Little girls have to go ask for soap and toilet paper to go to the bathroom in some of these schools. My mom works in public schools still, so and I grew up my whole life going to public schools. So it's easy to see how the community can feel like it's forgotten, you know, and how it can become a situation of crabs in a barrel, where nobody really has access to upward mobility. And as I've gained a platform and a voice, it's imperative to me to use that voice to empower the people from where I'm from, you know?
And I love that. And how do you hope that your foundation will do that exactly?
So some of our first initiatives, one of our first initiatives is called Street Medics. Street Medics is a program to train and equip first aid responders in Chicago's most violent neighborhoods, the Inglewoods, West Inglewoods, North Lawndale, Roseland. Because when you look at the statistics, a lot of people are dying either waiting for an ambulance or being transported across the city to a trauma unit. Because although the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago are two of the most violent areas of the nation, particularly the south side of Chicago at this point in time, there's no trauma unit.
Okay.
They're building a trauma unit right now, but as it stands, there's no trauma unit. So you have to be shipped all the way across the city.
Wow.
To get cared for. You could get turned away at hospitals. So we want to train and equip the community to stop the blood flow, to be able to save themselves. That's one of our first programs. Also putting mental health professionals, psychologists, and psychiatrists into middle schools in the city. And the third program is called Universe, which is kind of like a meeting of the minds that we want to create to kind of build a gap between Chicago's youth and Native American youth. Because when I went to Standing Rock a couple years ago, I saw how many parallels existed between the black community and the Native American community that I think are purposefully kept away from our vantage point, because you start getting dangerous when you start connecting groups of oppressed people and having them start to realize their similarities as opposed to focusing on their differences.
I love everything that you're doing, and thank you for breaking that down. What are you doing partnering with AT&T? Talk about that. What's going on with you and AT&T?
AT&T has been a very gracious partner in coming and showing support for this foundation that I'm doing, showing me support and showing the city of Chicago support. And I think that that's not to be taken lightly, and that's something that I really appreciate, because you know, our community needs it and our community supports Our community has some of the highest, strongest spending power of any group of people in the world. You know, it's like trillions of dollars is the black spending power per year. And it's very appreciated when corporations such as AT&T come and they recognize that support and they put the support, it's reciprocal.
Definitely. This is my very last question. So I interviewed AJ Carr. He's an actor in the current series on Showtime, The Chi. And I asked him, I said, if I do these interviews in my Jeep while I'm driving, and I was like, right now, AJ, I would go pick up 3 people. You pick them. Famous, non-famous, dead or alive. Who would you want? One of the people he named was you. This is AJ Carr. He's stick on the show. He said you, and I was like, "That's dope." I would want Vic to be in the ride too. So this is full circle for me. But what I wanted to add to that is, what advice can you give to people like AJ that are also have big platforms that may be scared about using, that may not know how to talk about different things that are going on right now, maybe a little scared about that? What advice would you give them? That's the last thing.
I doubt AJ is scared to use his platform, being that he's not on the Chi with Lena Waithe, and Lena Waithe ain't scared to tell a motherfucker a damn thing.
But for anyone out there that is a little hesitant and scared, what would you give them? And that's it.
I would say just educate yourself, you know? Educate yourself and know what you're talking about, because what I've learned is that regardless of where you are on the food chain, you know, people will find a way to tear you down. They'll say something, they'll latch on to something about you to tear you down. Whether it's me writing for Time magazine and they say I'm uneducated on the subjects that I'm talking about, or I'm young, or it's Jay-Z talking about bail reform in the New York Times. They say, well, he's a rapper, he's a businessman, this isn't his forte. People will find something about you to tear you down, so don't be deterred by that.
All right, well, you all, I want to thank AT&T for their hospitality as always. Vic Mensa, keep following him. He's doing his thing. I appreciate you. All know who I am. I'm Akisha Lockhart. Who are you?
Vic Mensa.